Okay, so you're able to chat, right? Good. Fine, fine, fine. Then good. Okay, I think a few people are still joining. We'll start in a few minutes. Is the screen visible? Okay, yeah. So we'll start in a few minutes. There are still people joining. Around like we'll start exactly at like 5:35. Okay, we can start. It's 5:35. So my name is Jatin. I'm a CP Strat in Programming Club of IT Madras, and I'll be taking first summer camp session. This joint session for both Adapt and CodeCraft, which is one is a computer programming camp, the other is a software development camp. So today I'll be just mainly talking about what is CP, like why do we need to do CP, like competitive programming. That's what I call, like I want to say in short in CP. And why do we need to do like software dev? What do we need to practice, etc. And some basic syntax and structures in basic like C++ itself. So let's start. Okay, first we'll go to the intro to programming. What is competitive programming? Uh, so it is writing code for solving tough problems using algorithms and data structures. So what is competitive programming? It's mainly like contests and problems which you solve using code. So what you'll be given is like a problem statement, some test cases, and the problem statement will tell like instruct you and how to process the test cases and give you an output. So the problem statement might require you to do some optimizations and some like general work on the inputs and give a certain output. So like we solve algorithmic puzzles. So it's like kind of uh, it takes a lot of thinking and writing down, maybe taking some sample test cases and solving stuff like that. Then after you come up with an algorithm and the data structures needed to use, like we need to use to solve the problem, we start writing a code solution for the problem. So in this is not just simply just writing whatever you've written. It includes like syntax, and there might be like corner cases. You need to take care about like size of the input, etc. So it's majorly there's a like a small process you need to follow before you be able to submit a problem. So the main thing about coding contests is you'll be able to compete in competitions, which are usually like 2 hours, 3 hours, sometimes even 5 hours. And like you'll be solving a certain number of problems. You're supposed to solve it in the like minimum number of time. So people who solve more number of problems in the least amount of time are ranked higher. And it's kind of a fun sport to play, like have while also learning a lot in programming and DSA. So here you can see like few pictures of a contest which was conducted in IIT Madras. So why do we need to do CP? It improves logical thinking and problem solving skills, obviously, because they are asking like literally asking a problem and we are supposed to solve it. And as we're writing code and trying to like make an algorithm for the problem, we obviously have more practice in DSA, which is an important skill for software jobs. Finally, the satisfying accepted prompt you get after correctly solving a problem is one of the main reasons why people like enjoy solving problems, like coding problems. And finally, you can also, if you're really enthusiastic and want to represent your college, there are various competition coding competitions which you can do so and try to win stuff and get your name in high places. So here you can see different like prompts you get if you get the answer wrong, and if you get the like code right, you get accepted solutions like this. So a pop quiz. I needed to identify these logos. You can scan the QR code and answer the uh, questions. I'll give you 2 minutes. So I hope you're making an attempt to answer the question. Okay, yeah. Seems some people actually like know. I mean, hacker rank is not here. Okay, so the answers are here. This is Code Forces, Code Chef, and Lead Code. These are popular platforms for practicing competitive programming. I mainly prefer using Code Forces because they have a lot of more ad hoc problems where you need to think a lot more before you are able to write the solution. Code Chef is also quite similar. It's Indian also. And lead code is mainly used for intern preparation, like preparation for interviews, etc. Like general BSc preparation. So you'll be if you're going to do a lot of computer programming and going to in the software direction, you might be aware of these platforms later and probably practicing a lot from them. So what and all competitions are there in programming? So initially regular contests in platforms like Code Forces, CodeChef, AtCoder, etc., even LeetCode, and there are a lot more platforms. So these platforms regularly hold competitions, like usually 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, which will have like tougher problems or more number of problems. And like you would be expected to solve them in a limited number of time, like limited amount of time. And maybe there's some rating also associated with this. But if you're a beginner, you don't need to worry about rating. Just concentrate on learning new topics. Now, there are some inter-college contests also held by programming clubs of various colleges, including IIT Madras also. They probably do like once a year or twice a year and hold it in platforms like CodeForce or CodeShape itself. So for schools, there's also an informatics Olympiad. If any school, like school student is there here, you can try, maybe if you're very keen on following CP, you can try to attend this. And for colleges, something similar. It's called ACM International Collegiate Programming Contest, and it's the acronym for acronym is ICPC, which we commonly use. ICPC. It's similar to Olympiads. It has many rounds, and last one being a world final where you represent your college and country at an international level. So like usually after the like preliminary round, you'll have a regional round, which you have to go somewhere in India only, but probably not your college, somewhere in India, and then represent your college there. If you get selected, there is also something called Asia Finals. There's also something called World Finals. So these finals, actually, you need to go to the different countries and represent India, and it's basically like a almost like an Olympics and or Olympiad stuff like that. So you can, it's a proud thing to do if you are really good in computer programming. And the big, like, I like this because you can participate in teams of three belonging to the same college. So you can like get a group of friends and practice computer programming, and then like have some teamwork, and then try to solve more number of problems, and like try to beat other teams, which is actually pretty fun. And the later rounds actually are like bigger 5 hour contests, which will have around 10 questions, and it's really fun to solve with friends. So this is the recent results for IITM in ICPC. Uh, these two teams had made it to the world finals, like they were world finalists, and had gone to Egypt to write their final round. Okay, so if are there any doubts? I didn't cover much, but if there are like any doubts on what platforms were there or something like that, you can tell me now. Put in the chat, please. Okay, if you don't have any doubts, how much maths is needed? I mean, basic logical reasoning you should know, and some amount of, uh, let's say, algebra is required. But it's not very intense maths like J means J advanced, something like that. So your basics should be strong. That's what I want to tell. Yeah, I will be giving a demo on how to use a CodeForces platform. Don't worry about that towards the end of the session. Yeah, you can, like, CP includes like those problems that lead code, right? It's very like standard and has to be done by like everybody. So that gives you a practice in let's say data structures and algorithms. But if you want to improve your like intuition and like creativity was this thing, you probably might need to go to CodeChef or CodeForces. Okay, platform to refer to theory and concepts. Like there are many tutorials on YouTube also, and in the summer camp also we'll be teaching you a lot of uh, topics. We'll be sharing some material also. You can look at that. Okay, so I'll continue. So now we'll go with the introduction of software development. This is mainly building and maintaining projects, GitHub repositories, and also working on open source projects. Maybe you would have heard of some of these names. So for those who've not heard, let's see what it is. So it's basically working on a bigger like project. Maybe let's say if you're making you might be working on a library in C++ where you can use certain functions. There might be bugs in those libraries. You might want to fix them. So stuff like that is like it takes some skill, and you need to know some certain concepts before working on such projects. So initially, obviously, you need proficiency in a programming language. And if you're working on a specific project, you need to know the programming language they have used. This is not necessarily C++ or Python or Java. It can be very like lesser used programming languages and all that. So like I would advise you to learn a language first, like C++ or Python or Java initially. And here we'll be focusing on C++, so you can start learning with us. And then like later when the requirement comes, it would be easier for you to learn because you know how a programming language is. So finding like similarities would be easier. So you don't need to worry about learning too many languages. Concentrate on one language and try to practice in it. Later, maybe like you know many concepts which are common to many programming languages, so you can focus on that later. So next is proficiency in version control software. This is something you might not have heard before. It's important for working in large teams. Let's say if like 100 like 100 people are working on one project, and different people are working on like let's say different bugs and features and all. So it's bound to happen that you will have a different version of the software compared to somebody else because you had taken like you're working on a previous version or something like that. And also like if there are errors in people's code, you can like backtrack and go back to the working version and try to, I mean, like give that to the public instead of giving a buggy version. That all this is included in version control software, which like it prevents many mistakes from happening, and like very drastic let's say like maybe whole databases going missing can be like avoided by using these kind of software. So it's one example of this is Git and GitHub, which will be taught during your CodeCraft summer camp. So problem solving, communication, and teamwork. This is like normal cliche topics which it's necessary for working in a team. And of course, to like fully like be able to work on projects, you need to you need to do projects. So like doing is better than trying to learn all the theory you can and then trying to work on something. It's better to like just start reading about some stuff, or looking into what goes into development, stuff like that. Okay, so what is GitHub, Git and GitHub? It's a software which allows multiple developers to collaborate on a project simultaneously without interfering with each other's work. So just as I mentioned, everybody will be having a different version of the code. So like if one person makes a mistake in their code or has deleted something in their code, it does not affect the other person working on some other code. So it's almost like a copy, like everybody has a copy of the code instead of working on this exact same code. And whenever you need to, let's say, make a change, it has to like be first reviewed by many like other like seniors or manage like project mentors if it's for a school project, stuff like that, and then only it will change the actual code. So it's a lot of process so that many mistakes don't end up in the final code. So the public gets a good working if you're making an application or library or whatever. So uh, it makes GitHub is just a web-based platform that uses Git software for version control, and it helps make repositories available on the internet, offers continuous integration, continuous development to enable automated testing and deployment. So continuous integration, continuous deployment is like you like people will be still working on the software, and you can still like what do you say, like give updates to the public at the same time. It's a continuous process, not like one after the other. So we can go to the world of open source. Is my audio clear? Hello, could you anyone tell me if my audio is clear? Okay. Are these pictures visible? Okay, 1 minute. I'll try to debug this. Okay, is the screen visible now? Okay. Okay, we can continue. So open source refers to software where the source code is freely available for anyone to use. So I mean, there are many software which are not like this, but there are many software which is like you can go and look at any code which is used for making that software. So like Linux, actually even GitHub itself is an open source software where many people from the public was able to give features and bug fixes to the software. So like anybody can like if they want to can give a like a suggestion to the maintainers of the software to like if they can make a change in the source code, and if the maintainers agree, they will you can actually do like work on these softwares. So maybe even if it's as simple as like maybe the scroll bar is not working as intended or a link is not linked properly, even those kind of commits are accepted by the maintainers. So benefits include transparency, obviously, because the entire code base is available for the public, and innovation because people like the public does this in their free time. it's like they're interested to like contribute to open source. So like this is also a good resume point and a good thing to like be a part of in contribution of open source. So GSOC is a annual program sponsored by Google, which it kind of promotes open source collaboration within colleges. They offer stipends to university students working on open source software, and this is during the summer break. So what exactly happens is they list a number of let's say companies which uh, are like agreed to be part of GSOC, and then you go through these companies and their products. They'll have some open source software where like many of like users would have let's say given listed out issues or features which are required in the software, so you can pick up one of them, try to find solutions for them, work on like a timeline during the summer. How would you be able to finish the uh, how would you be able to finish the work that you are promising to do? And based on that, the maintainers and some officials kind of decide uh, uh, like if they would select you or not. And finally, like you would get an acceptance letter, and finally you would be getting even paid for doing the work. So I'm one of the coordinators in programming club. Actually got uh, GSOC this summer. So his name is Advik. He might be taking a session in CodeCraft and a session in uh, the adapt. So we can move on. Any doubts till now? Please don't put no doubts in the chat. I can't see the people who have the doubts, or else like if anybody has a doubt, uh, mention it, or else you can just roadmap to clear GSOC. I actually would advise you to actually contact few people who have cleared GSOC. If not from your college, probably from our college too. We will get back to you later. Okay, we can start with the next topic, I think. So let's start with the actual technical part of this camp with basics of C++. This will include variables, input output operations, if-else statements, and loops. Loops will be taken in detail in the second half of this session. Like Parva, he will take you in detail for this, so you don't need to worry if you don't understand it that well. So what is the basic structure of a C++ program? This is an example of a very small C++ program. This just outputs hello world into the terminal. So what it is basically that this is just including libraries. So libraries are like it's files which have functions like cout, cin, like you have many methods which you use in the program, which you need to include those libraries for. I will mention what the common libraries are in the next slide. So what the actual, what the computer actually runs is the main function. So whatever you put in the main function is what is executed when you press like play or run, you give a run command in the terminal or stuff like that. So whatever you call here, whatever functions you call, whatever like output statements, input statements, variables you make, all whatever is like statements are put in this would be executed. So common libraries we include in C++ are usually IOStream, which I had included there. It takes care of basic input-output operators like cin, cout. The cin takes care of taking input from the user. Cout gives an output to the terminal. So algorithm is a library. It's not just algorithm, it's algorithm library. It has inbuilt sort algorithms, lower bound, upper bound. So sort is actually very simple. Like if you have like a, let's say, a list of elements, some one to like some random number of elements, like some 9, 7, 4, 3, 7, something like that. Sort will either, according to your will, it will either order these elements in increasing order or decreasing order. So lower bound and upper bound also are functions which work on these collection of numbers, which will be taught in later in vectors and arrays in the second half of the session. C math is also a common library which is used to call math functions like tan, which is very common in your high school, logarithm also, and absolute also, where this returns the absolute value of whatever you put in it. So if you like call absolute value -5, the output of this function would be 5. And we have also one like another common library called string. This has basic operations like concatenation. Like concatenation is just joining two strings. Say if I have a string called Jatin S1 and a string called like VK. So if you these are two different strings. If I want to combine them into one string, I use the concatenation function. So syntax is how I gave it there. Hash include, open angular brackets, and angular library name. So you don't need to put semicolon for this. This is one of the few statements you don't need to put semicolon in C++. Otherwise, you need to like make sure you put semicolon. This is an important thing because it might lead to many errors when you're trying to write C++ code. Also, in competitive programming, we commonly use this library. This actually includes all standard libraries in C++, so that you don't need to like one by one include IOStream, algorithm, CMath, string, etc. So this includes the entire library in just one line. I recommend not using this for software development because there you will not be using all the libraries at once, and it's like a industry level code. You should not be unnecessarily doing like including stuff and making your code very clunky, and like, it should not it should be as optimized as possible. So we'll start with variables. They are they're like entities which store variable like values depending on the data type. So here X is a variable and the data type is int. That means this variable X is an integer. It will always be an integer. Like you should always give it an integer. If you don't give it an integer, it will just round out. Or yeah, if you give stuff like maybe float, double, it will be able to store decimal points. So these are just common data types. Int is just storing integer type with some like limit. You can check the like internet and documentation to see how what is the limit of integer. And by limit, I mean like the maximum value you can store in it and the minimum value you can store in it. And long is just a bigger version of integer. It stores just it's what do you say? The range is much bigger. The number of bits you can like store, it stores like is way bigger than the whatever integer stores. Float and double store decimals. Character stores like whatever it says, character. Let's say a or dot or question mark. Anything could be stored in a character. So this is how we make like tell the program we are using the variable X. We first have to declare it. So the program gets to know that we're using a variable X when you declare it. And this is the syntax to declare it. You'd put the data type first and then a variable name immediately after semicolon. One thing you have to remember is if you like declare it this way and not initialize it, this X will have a garbage value before you initialize a value like this. So initializing means you're giving it a value. You can do this both in one step. I'm just telling what kind of error could occur if you don't do like initialize immediately after you declare. So you should remember to initialize immediately after you declare a variable. So when I was starting programming, I made this mistake a lot, and I was like my algorithm was correct, but I was not able to find an error. So this is one of the common mistakes I was making, and I hope you don't make the same mistake now. So now we'll move on to input output statements. So the first one is standard cout, which takes care of outputting into the terminal. So if like example is a standard cout, you could put semicolons to like not semicolons, sorry, apostrophes to represent strings, or you can output the variables. Now, mind you, this is not outputting x; it is outputting the value inside the variable x. So cin also is taking input from a user, and this is an example of how to take an input from a user. And this is an example code to print out the number which was inputted to the user, or like inputted from the user. So like if I run this code, the program will ask me to give a number. I will give a number. The like you can see here, I've initialized and declared at the same time. So int x equal to 0. Immediately after this like statement, x will have a value 0. And if I don't put the 0, x will have some random value. So here I'm just inputting the value of x and then outputting the same value of x, and like outputting the same value of x into the terminal. So one note is you can remove this std : everywhere. You can see here that we are using std : cin, std : cout. We can remove this by using the statement using namespace std. You can search about namespace like if you're interested in it. But like basically, if you do this, you can avoid typing std : every time you want to take an input-output operation, or even this endl. Okay, this endl operation actually just moves your cursor in the terminal to a new line. It's like pressing enter, like exactly like pressing enter, but you're telling the uh, program to do it. So instead of now, you can see that after using namespace std, the code becomes much shorter. You just need to write cin, cout, and endl. Again, this is not recommended for your software development, because this is again you might be using many namespaces, and using namespace std in the starting of the program makes the program it makes the program think you're using only standard namespace. So in bigger organizations, you might be using other namespaces. So please be careful while using it. It is okay to use it while submitting problems for competitive programming. Okay, now moving on to conditional statements. These are like crucial for if statements and loops for their conditions to operate, and which block to run. So how do we make conditional statements? So conditional statements is actually something which returns either the true or false value. So by how do we make them return it? We use comparators. So for example, if you take equal to, this is an equality comparator. So what a comparator does is, in this case, there are two variables which will be compared. In this example, you can see here, a equal to b, it is checking if a is equal to b. So this is called an equality comparator. Similarly, if it's not equal to, as in this case, it is checking if c is not equal to b. So when this condition is true, when it is not equal to b, return true. When it is equal to b, it will return false. Similarly, if a is equal to b, this will return true. If it is not equal to b, it will return false. Now we may have to use certain we may have multiple conditions to check. So we use logical operators to be able to correctly logically combine them. So two of them are here. This is called and, this is called or. And may is a connector between two conditional statements. If and operator, if both of these are true, then it returns a true, or else it will return false. So if even one of these statements are false, it will return false. And or statement, it is made in such a way that if one of these statements are true, it will return true, else it will return false. So like this can be repeated. Maybe you can add more and put brackets to make it in such a way that you need to satisfy certain conditions first, stuff like that. You can check the internet for more like syntax and like logical operators, etc. So now we would be moving on to if statements. So the basic working of an if statement. How do you read this? You read this uh, like like how I would read it. If this condition is true, execute this block. Otherwise, execute this block. So if condition is true, execute this block. Else, execute this block. So you can see in this program, if x mod 2 equal to 0. Okay, this operator is called a modulus operator. It returns the value of the remainder after the first number is divided by the second number. So this is a basic program to return if the number inputted from the user is even or odd. So if x is the remainder of x when divided by 2 is 0, then output yes. So this is a like it finds out if it is even or not. So if you divide by 2, it should return a remainder 0, right? So it will give an output yes, or else it will give 0 no. So this is a basic program to find if like the inputted number is even or not. Now there's a variation of this if-else statement called if-else statements. This is like you can have multiple conditions and try to have a like a program written on it. So in this case, if condition 1 is true, the first block is executed. Whatever statements C out, C in, incrementing, or maybe initializing a variable, stuff like that. In this bracket, these two brackets, it is executed. But if condition 1 is false, then it goes to the next else if. Now this, it checks if condition 2 is true. So if condition 2 is true, it executes the second block. So one thing you have to remember is this else if statement will be executed only if the condition 1 is false. So as you can see here, executes this block if condition 1 is false and condition 2 is true. And then finally, if there's an else statement, it executes this block if all the conditions above are false. So I have mentioned only two conditions here. You can have multiple if, else if, else if, else if continuously like that. And finally, if you have an else block, all these conditions should be false, then only this block will be executed. Okay, we can go forward to for loops. Are there any doubts still now? Uh, please like type your doubts on the chat. Okay, you missed the standard part. Okay, like when you're writing code, normally for C++, you have to mention std colon cin or std colon cout. Certain functions require those that format. But if you write using namespace std, I will share this uh, slide to you. You can check later also. If you write using namespace std initially, you can avoid using those std colon cin, std colon cout, as we had to do over here. That's all. This session is a little slow because it's many beginners also would be there. Don't worry, there many new topics will come in the subsequent sessions. I also have some examples for you to solve. Okay, we can move on. So basic working of a for loop. Now a loop is to avoid writing the same code multiple times. So let's say if you want to print out the value 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, let's say you want to print it out in the terminal. You can't sit and write cout 1, cout 2, cout 3. That is too much work. So this is a kind of a fix for that. So this is like a loop, and it runs this block until the condition is false. So whatever you put into this block, like these two brackets, will be like repeated until the condition is false. So here you can see an example. Well, this is exactly printing numbers from 0 to 9. You can see that we initialized integer I to 0. We are putting a condition that I should be less than 10, and then we have to increment I. So how this process is, I gets value 0. It checks if it's less than 10. It is less than 10, it executes this program. So 0 will be printed. And now it goes back here again. It gets incremented by 1. I plus plus means it will get incremented by 1. So again, now I is less 1 is less than 10. It goes into the loop. It prints 1, and it gets incremented and again gets checks for 2 less than 10, which is true. So it keeps doing this until you reach I equal to 10. So when I is equal to 10, 10 is not less than 10. So it'll break this loop and continue executing everything else. So this is a pop quiz. I want you guys to give the output of this code when the input is given as 8. I have not used any new things. I've explained the if statement, for statement, stuff like that. So you can scan this QR and try to answer the question. Take a few minutes to read the code and try to answer. Yeah, okay, I can see some responses. So yeah, majority of you have got this correct. The answer is 0246. So, I mean, like, I'll tell you what how do you get the output for this. So if my program is initializing the value of x to 0, and then I'm telling the user to give a number. So here x gets the value of 8. So I gave a number 8. Now this for loop, this enters the for loop. So I is initialized with a value of 0. It is checking if I is less than 8, and then going to the loop, printing executing the what do you say, the statements, and then coming and incrementing it. So let's say initially the value of I is 0. Here I already wrote this if statement before. So this is just a check to see if the number is even. So if the remainder when you divide by 2 is 0, I'm printing it. If it's not, then I just that like you can avoid writing else statement. It'll just not print. I mean, like, execute this block. So it'll just continue with the next loop. So finally, you will get 0 because it's an even number, 2, 6, 4, and 6. And why 8 won't come is because uh, let's say if x is 8. Now, when I is equal to 8, this condition will be 8 less than 8, which is false. So when I becomes 8, the for loop stops executing and the program ends. Return 0 is where the program ends. So yeah, good job for those who guessed it right. Okay, we have one more loop. It's called while loop. Its basic working is again similar to for loop, but it's much smaller. It's while this condition is true, execute it, or else just leave it. So if this condition is always true, then this while loop keeps executing and the program goes on till infinity. And if you're writing computer programming problems, this will reach an time limit exceeded error. So you should make sure that the while loop condition becomes false, at least like within some time. So look, you can see one example code over here which is written. So I'm taking input from a user and I'm checking if x is not equal to 0. Can someone? Okay, why is 0 being printed? Uh, remember how I explained for loop? We first initialize the variable I, and then we check the condition, and then we start executing the statements. So we don't increment it before it starts executing. So 0 is also a number being printed. Okay, yeah. So can someone tell me what this code is doing? This while loop. It's similar. The working is similar to for loop, just that the condition we don't need to initialize any variables, stuff like that. You can respond in the chat. Maybe just 2 or 3 words. Gets the remainder. Prints all the digits of number separately. Okay, yeah, yeah. So printing the number, like the digits of the number separately is correct. So in what order? From units place to the most significant digit, or from most significant digit to units place? Which direction? Yes, correct, correct. Units place to significant. So yeah, some of you are getting like might be knowing C++ or might be by like learned it right now. So good job. So as you can see, the this is a program which I'm taking. Given a number, I gave it 1564321, and it returns the digits of the number in the reverse order from the units place to the most significant digit. So how this while loop works is when you give a number, let's say we're giving this number 1564321. It like we are checking for it. It's like not equal to 0. So since this number is not equal to 0, it enters the loop. It prints the remainder of like after dividing it by 10, which in the first case it's 10, 1, right? If you divide this number by 10, you get a remainder 1. So it prints 1. And then later x is equal to x by 10. So now you can see I'm using integer x over here, like integer value for x over here, but I'm dividing it by 10. And dividing it by 10 is actually a decimal value. So what the program does is the decimal value is discarded. It's not rounded off, it's discarded. Please note that. So even if it is like 1.99999 or something, it gets reduced to 1. So sometimes that error happens during like some problems in like computer programming. So just like when you're practicing, just make sure you're rounding off in the correct direction, stuff like that. So whenever you divide by 10, you're removing 1 digit from this, and then you're like outputting the last digit. So every time you do, like you output 1, then you output 2, then you output 3, then you output 4. So you keep doing that until the number becomes 0. So how does it become 0? The last iteration, the value of x is 1. Like 1 mod 10 is 1. It will output the value 1, and then 1 is equal to 1 divided by 10. I mean, sorry, x is equal to 1 divided by 10. So 1 divided by 10 gets like pulled down to 0. So x is equal to 0 while condition is false. So it like breaks it, completes the loop, like it does not execute it anymore and continues the program. And since return 0 is there, it like finishes running. Okay, so this is the attendance QR for this session. You can scan it and fill the form. I'll give you 5 minutes, like 4 minutes to submit this. Meanwhile, I'll try to answer some of your doubts. Works as greatest integer function. Yeah, you could say that, correct. Uh, the attendance is like you can fill the attendance, right? Some of you can respond. Okay, okay. My screen is stuck in while loop page. I'd recommend you to join again. The attendance seems to be working for the others. It might be an issue on your side. Maybe just make like leaving and rejoining will refresh the page. Okay, the classes will be on alternate days. I think Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I'm not sure. We'll let you know. And the timings would be 5:30 to 5, 5:30. I think 1 hour 15 minutes for adapt. 1 hour 30 minutes for adapt and 1 hour for uh, CodeCraft, which I think that starts by 7:30 or 7ish. Which language do you suggest? I mean, for summer camp, we'll be doing C++, so you can try to learn C++ with us. I use C++. Python is a slightly slower compared to C++. Java, if you like, it's your personal preference, but I would suggest doing in C++. Oh, are you using your phone to scan the QR? I mean, sorry, are you using your phone to attend the meet? Then, we'll get back to you. I think the same attendance QR will be sent later. I'll tell you later. I think you will have some tasks for uh, CodeCraft. As for what do you say? As for adapt, you will have some problem sets to finish, depending on the topic which is covered on the day. Okay, it's I two different courses of adapt and CodeCraft. Okay, adapt is for competitive programming. I think it was pretty clear in the description. Adapt is for competitive programming only, and CodeCraft is for software development, like more like working on bigger projects. You'll be learning what GitHub, what you can do in GitHub, what you can like like project related topics like object oriented programming, stuff like that. Yes, I will be like giving you some problems sets today. Today will be pretty simple because you're starting off with C++. Later it will like because of the topics, it might get a little harder. Also, one thing is when you're starting with CP in any platform, you're not expected to solve the first problem instantly. It's comes gradually. You might have many wrong submissions before your first correct submission. So don't lose hope because you got the wrong submission some 2 or 3 times. Just maybe ask some senior or friend who's done it. Okay, it's 6:30. Can we start moving on? Is everyone done with the attendance? Yeah, there is one more class after this, which is on more C++. This is basic stuff which are required for both camps. So that's why we are having a common session. Okay, I think we can move on. I'll be giving you a small code forces tutorial on how to submit a problem and like how to write a code, how to like choose a problem to write. I'm uh, I will share the screen in a few minutes. Give me some time. Okay, can you guys see the screen? Okay, fine. So yeah, so this is the main like home page for CodeForces. There are many tabs over here, like home. This will go to the top, blogs, catalog. You can explore many of this. So like you will get a lot of blogs of many contests. And in this case, I think this is some ICPC camp. Which so here you can see there's one CodeForces round blog where it's a blog to invite people to join to attempt this code round 953. Division 2, like there are 4 divisions in the code forces, 1, 2, 3, 4. So depending on your rating, you'll be able to write these contests. I mean, I think you'll be able to write these contests, but you'll be rated only for the ones you are eligible for. So division 2 is on the slightly tougher side. Maybe if you're starting from beginning, division 4 is question should be better. Like if there's a division 4 contest, I think you'll be able to do more number of questions. So if you're a beginner, try to solve this contest. I think even one question you'll be able to do in division 2. That's not a problem. So when you enter the page, like you first make a account. I have already made an account, so I think that should be pretty simple for you. You have to just give a what do you say, username, an email ID, stuff like like usual stuff to make an account. So what I wanted to say was how to attempt contests. So if you go to the contest tab, you will have a list of many contests which are going to be like conducted. You can see the writers here, which will be available sometime before the contest starts. This is the time when the contest starts. This is important. For code forces, usually 8 5 p.m. So like try to, if you're taking CP, then try to free up this time. You can see that there's one, like there were not many contests for some time, and now there's a contest every 2 days for some time. And you can see this division 3 means it's rated. Division 3 is kind of easy, but not. I wouldn't say it's very easy. It's some hard questions will be there towards the end. Division 2 is decently hard. And if there are division 4 contests, for beginners it is pretty good because you can solve like around 3 4 questions minimum. So here it says before registration sometime. When Okay, right now it says I need to wait for 31 hours, but when you finish 31 hours, there'll be a button called register over here. So you press register, and like a new window would come. You just need to press register as individual or something, and then you'll be registered for the contest. So make sure you do this before the contest starts. And finally, when you come to this page around like 8 o'clock, and then wait for the contest to start, and then it'll take you to the problems. Like problems of the page. So how this would look like is, let's say if I'm this round happened recently and I had participated in it. So this is how it looks like in past contests, but I just want to show you how a contest like page looks like. So when you enter a contest, okay, this seems to be taking much longer than usual. Okay, yeah. So you'll get a set of problems like this. So usually the contests they like what do you say? Order the problems in increasing order of difficulty. So the first problem will be easier than the second problem, easier than the third problem. This sometimes like there might be like one problem which is easier is put after a tougher problem, which it depends on like the what problem setters feel like. So sometimes they may feel like the other problem is easier, but like the public solves more number of problems. Here you can see the total number of submissions. The green shows if you've solved the problem or not. Or if you submitted and it's wrong, it'll come as red. So different stuff like that. And for practicing, you go to problem set. Here you'll get just like enormous amount of problems to practice on. And here you can see the ratings of each problem. Uh, you can see there is 2,600, 1,100. So like usually for beginners, I'd recommend you to start with 800, 900 level problems and later move on to 1,000 and keep increasing. So like this will like whoever is practicing for computer programming will be like using this problem set a lot. So I want to show you how to submit one problem. Let's pick a problem. So these problems are actually the problems which happen in past contests. Okay, so let's choose this problem and solve it. So this is how a problem will look like. The problem name will be there, time limit will be given, memory limit per test will be given. You don't need to worry too much about these. You just need to know that there's a certain like usually you can make an array of only this much size. You can make you can do only these many loops per second. This will be covered in your I think time complexity session. So you don't need to worry about it right now. We'll just this problem it'll be very simple. So you don't it's just an if else statement. We don't need to worry about that. So let's solve this. One hot summer day, Pete and his friends Billy decided to buy a watermelon. They chose the biggest and the ripest one in their opinion. After that, the watermelon was weighed and the scale shows W kilos. Now, usually the variables, I mean, like not the variables, the data given to us will be given in like a different font. You can see here they have given input. The first line input contains an integer of number W. They've given so whatever the problem statement tells in like A or W or something like that, either is just like a notation, mathematical notation, or you will be given an input. So in maths problems, let's say if you're solving for computer like JE or something like that, you'll be given these values. But for these questions, they'll give you just W, X or something like that, and you should make your program according to it. So let's say the problem after the watermelon was weighed, the scale shows W kilos. So the watermelon weighs W kilos. They rushed home, dying of thirst, decided to divide the berry. However, they faced a hard problem. Pete and Billy are great fans of even numbers. That's why they want to divide the watermelon in such a way that each of the two parts weighs even number of kilos. So Pete and Billy need to divide the watermelon so that the two pieces weigh even number of kilos. So that means both pieces have like are divisible by 2. Like their weights are divisible by 2. At the same time, it is not obligatory that the parts are equal. So you don't need to make the parts into 2 equal halves. It can be whatever you want. Like you can cut it in the side, half, full, whatever. So the boys are extremely tired and want to start the meal as soon as possible. That's why you should help them and find out. If you can divide the watermelon in the way they want, for sure each of them are each of them should get a positive weight, part of a positive weight. So this statement tells us that the one weight should not be 0. Like nobody should not get a watermelon piece. So like if the weight is like 3 or 4 or something, you should divide in such a way that both of them get some part of the watermelon. So how do you solve this problem? You first see the input. It says the first and the only input line contains an integer W. And they've given the like range of W, what it could be, and the weight of the watermelon brought by the boys. So what we are supposed to do, print yes, if the boy can divide the watermelon into 2 parts, each weighing even number of kilos, no in the opposite case. So some problems, whenever they expect you to print yes or no, they will allow you to put whatever like case. It's case insensitive, is what I wanted to say. It's so you can put capital Y, small e, small s, capital Y, capital E, small s. In this case, it's an old problem, so I think they take only this string. So we'll try to code it for that. So we can see the example. They're saying if the weight of a watermelon is 8, the answer is yes. So what do you think the solution of this code is? Oh, wow. Some people have already answered. We could check if W is even but not equal to 2. Okay, so why not equal to 2? Because 2 by 2 is 1, yeah. Okay, so whoever is not understood, no problem. I'll explain this to you. So since you need to split the weight W into two parts of even like sizes. Let's say W is equal to X plus Y. X is even, Y is even. So what can you say about W? If X plus like X is even, Y is even, you're adding two even numbers. What could you say about W? It's even, right? Not equal division of weight. Well, 0, 2 is not possible. See, that's what I mentioned in the last. For sure, each of them should get a part of a positive weight. A positive weight is great, like strictly greater than 0, or else they'll mention non-zero value. So, okay, yeah. So if you if two like the sum of two numbers and each number is even, then the sum of those two numbers will also be even always. So the solution, the algorithm for the solving this question will be telling W is even, because every like let's say if you take 4 or 6, you can always divide into two even numbers. So if you take 4, you can subtract 2 from it, you get 2. So you can divide into 2 and 2. Say if you have 6, you can divide into 4 and 2. So except 2, every even number can be divided into 2. I hope that is clear to the others who had not understood the problem initially. So except 2, every other uh, every other even number is you can test it over here if you want, or you can write it in on a local ID also. Right now I'm writing it over here so you guys can easily understand what I'm doing. So I'll show you how to submit code also. So like let's start writing the code. First we include libraries. In this case, we need to do only input output. Of course, using namespace we mentioned, and write the main function. So now this is where the input comes in play. So how are they putting the input? As you can see in the test case itself, they're just giving a number. So we'll just take a number. Don't write enter a number or something like that. By requirement, they are just giving a number. You should not put anything in the output, because the only output you should give is yes or no. If you put, let's say, enter a number or something like that, it will fail the test case. You'll have a wrong output. So let's initialize a value. Let's call it W itself. We'll take its input. Okay, so now the solution is if W mod 2 is equal to 0 and W not equal to 2. So two conditions I mentioned here. It is either, I mean, like first W has to be even and W should not be equal to 2. If that is the case, see out yes. Now you can see I'm putting only capital letters because this is as I said, an old problem. So I think they won't accept a small, like any other variation of yes. Let's like what I meant is like if I put yes like this or yes like this, it won't accept it. So in more recent problems, I think it doesn't matter. So like be careful of formalities also. This will help you later. So now we put the else statement because we have to print no also. See out no. If you want, you can put this endl or not because this is not many test cases, so you need not worry about printing a new line or not printing a new line. So right now we'll put an output 8 and see if it is giving the correct output. Okay, one more thing. Okay, so it's returning it. Yes. Now let's say if you say 5, as you can see, 5 will never be able to split it into two even parts. Let's say if it's 1, 4, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, all like combinations of splitting it into will always have one odd number. So here, obviously, the answer is no. Also, 2 should give no. And of course, you can't split a weight of 1. Yeah. So it seems our code is working correctly. Oh, one thing I have to mention is you have to choose your language here. I have chosen the latest version of C++, which is G++20. There are like this is 2020, 2017, 2014. I'm just choosing this. So after choosing that, you can run. So you can test your file by uploading it also. You can try to like figure that out when you're solving problems. So now I've got a correct code. I want to submit it. So how do I submit it? I first copy this, or the same way make a file of it. In the submission page, I go to submit. So now one thing you have to make sure this problem should say have the same name as whatever you're submitting it. Like if you're replacing it with another problem, obviously you'll get a wrong submission because the expected output for the other one will be different. Then you choose a language again. Again, here I'm choosing G++20. I'm pasting the solution here. Or you could choose a file and upload it here, one of them, and I press submit. This is taking slightly long. Yes. As you can see, I got an accepted verdict at 6:47. Okay, wow, we did it a little bit. So see, I've been practicing computer programming for like 2 years now, and I still am having a wrong at test case at 2. So don't worry if you're not able to get the correct test case in the first try itself. It takes time. So yeah, I think uh, I think the demo for CodeForces should be fine. Okay, yeah. One more thing is we'll be adding you to a group. So here there you like we would be sending you a group invite. After making the account, you're supposed to click the group invite and like add yourselves in. So let's say I'm a participant of CP contingent of last year, so I'll try to join it. Now here is where we'll give assignments for your adapts session. So like okay, this is one advanced topic, don't need to worry about it, but like we will be giving simpler topics. This is also a problem set. It's very similar to what we'll give a start date, we'll give some time to solve it, and then uh, you'll have to solve a minimum number of questions to progress. So when I enter, again similar to the contest page, the problems open and I choose a problem and start solving. So yeah, I think that's all for code forces. Can go back. Okay, yeah, so thank you. This is the end of my session. The next session will start in a few minutes. You could scan and fill the feedback form. No problems. please fill the feedback form. Like your feedback is important. It will help us to improve the following sessions. If we want to go quickly or slower, with more examples, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm Jatin. I'm signing off for today. Thanks. Okay, yeah. So somebody's asking why do we use C in? So like it's a specific syntax. So the one side angular bracket is only for C out, and the other side angular bracket is only for C in. So one is called input stream operator, other is called output stream operator. You can Google that and like see more details on why it's defined that way. It's also the same for left shift and right shift for bits. So we'll discuss that later.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yeah, you're audible. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Parva Satodia. I'll be taking the next session, which is loops, arrays, strings, and vectors. I'm currently a coordinator at the programming club, right? So I'll be covering loops in more detail apart from what Jatin explained. So in programming, sometimes there is a need to perform some operation more than once. So loops come into use when we need to repeatedly execute a block of statements, right? So suppose we want to print hello world 100 times, then it will be really hectic to write it 100 times, right? It's not feasible. So that's why we use loops. So mainly there are two types of loops which are used quite extensively for CP. One is for loop and another loop is while loop, right? So I'll be covering for loop first. So for loop, when do we use the for loop? We use it when we know the number of iterations beforehand, right? So and this is the syntax for the for loop. First we initialize. First we give the initial condition which executes at the start of the loop, right? And after that, uh, if the okay, so after the initialization, the it tests the condition, right? This is a test condition that we give. So if the condition evaluates it true, then it will execute the body of the loop, right? And then it will execute whatever statement we have written inside the loop. Otherwise, it will exit from the loop. And after executing the statement, uh, it will go for the update condition, right? This will increment or decrement the loop variable. So I guess this diagram will be will explain you more clearly, right? So first we use the initialization expression. Then it tests the condition. If that condition is true, it will execute the block of statements. Otherwise, it will the control will go outside the loop and the loop will end, right? And if after executing the block of statements, it will update the expression, whatever variable we're incrementing or decrementing, it will update that variable. And after that, it will again go to the test condition. And again, the loop will repeat, right? So this is the flowchart for loop in C++, right? So now we'll take some examples to make it more clear. So in this problem, we are going to find the sum of the series, like 1 into 1 plus 2 into 2 plus 3 into 3 till 50 times 50, right? Obviously, you can do it using maths, right? I'll I'm just going to demonstrate using this code, right? So what do we do first? We initialize the sum variable to 0. And then we write our for loop, right? So we our initialization expression is int I equals 1, right? And our test condition is I less than 51 because we want the loop to stop when the variable hits 50, right? So I've written this test condition, and this is the update expression I plus plus, right? After the statement executes, the loop, the I variable I will be incremented, right? So what do we do here? When the variable I is 1, we execute this statement sum plus equals I times I. What does this plus equals mean? It means it adds whatever value I times I to the sum. To the sum we have already executed before. So if, for example, if the sum is like 100, doing this plus equals will again add this value to that uh, value 100, right? So, and after this whole loop is executed, we are just outputting the sum, right? So this is this is how you solve this question. So now I'll just jump directly to arrays because I think Jatin has covered all the necessary parts. So what are arrays, right? In C++, array is a data structure that is used to store multiple values of similar data types in a contiguous memory location. Suppose we want a bunch of numbers to be stored in contiguous memory locations, and we want to access them, right? So, and we want that those bunch of numbers to be of the same integer data types, right? So how do we do that? So that's why we use arrays, right? For example, if we have to store the marks of like 4 or 5 students, then we can easily store them by creating 5 different variables. But like if we have like 100 students or say 500 students, then it becomes very challenging to create 100 variables, right? So that's why we use arrays. So the thing about arrays is you need to remember is array indexes are numbered starting from 0. So suppose I have 6 elements, then the array indexes will start from 0 and will go up to 5, right? So just remember this. This is very important. The array index starts from 0, right? Now these are some properties of an array. So indexing starts from 0. It means the first element is to store at the 0th index, second at the first, and so on, right? This is the most important property that you should remember, right? After that, elements of an array can be accessed using their indices. So if you know the index of the element, you can directly access that element, right? You don't need to use another variable to do it, right? So if you know the index, you can directly access it. And once an array is declared, its size remains constant throughout the program. So if I have an array of size 7, say 7, then I can't alter it during the program, right? I cannot change its size from 7 to 10 or say 5, right? Its size will remain constant throughout the program. And array can have multiple dimensions, we can have a 2-dimensional array or a 3-dimensional array, but we'll just focus on 1-dimensional array for this slide, right? Now, how do we declare the array? So array declaration works by first specifying the data type of the array. Like if it's an integer type array or float type array or character type array. So first we specify the data type, then whatever name of an array you can give, and After that, you have to specify size of an array. Okay. So you can specify how many elements are there in that array. So suppose I have integer array, integer ARR is the name of the array, and size 5. So indexes will be numbered from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Now, how do we initialize the array? So if you just declare the array elements will have some garbage value as before, as similar to when we initialize, when we just write a variable, suppose int x. So that x will have some random garbage value. Similar here also, the elements will have garbage value, right? So for initializing them, there are multiple ways you can initialize the array. So first way is you can write this statement int array equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it means array of total size 5 is created and the elements are numbered from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order. Or you can also not choose to mention the size and you can specify the values of the elements. And automatically the length of the array will be set to 5. Okay. And if you want, you can also you declare the initialize the array using any kind of loops. So suppose I have a for loop and I use that loop to set the value of each individual array element. Okay, so I can do that. Or if I want to initialize the array with 0 and I want all the elements to be set to 0, so I can use this syntax like just one single 0 you need to mention here, then all the elements will be set to 0. Okay, so now we'll see how we can access an element of an array. Suppose we have an array of size 5 and elements are numbered from 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And I want to print the elements of an array. So how do I do that? First, I use a for loop, which runs 5 times. And remember, I have initialized this variable I starting from 0 because as we all know, the array indexing starts from 0. So for outputting the array element, I use this syntax array, this brackets, and the index, whatever index of that element I want to output, right? So this will output all the elements of an array like 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay. And suppose we want to find the size of an array. There's another alternative way you can do that. Suppose I have an array already declared here of size 5. Then suppose suppose if I've mentioned size 5 here, but suppose if I don't know the size, then what can I do? I can write int size. I can use the size of function. Size of function will return the size of whatever variable you have kept inside it. So size of array, this ARR means this whole size of this whole array, all the 5 elements, how much size will it take? So it will take the size of 5 integer elements. So we know that each integer element takes 4 bytes of space. Okay, just remember this. Each integer element takes 4 bytes of space. So this whole array will be of size 5 times 4, which will be of 20 bytes. And we are dividing it by size of single element. Array 0 means a single element. So single element will have the size like 4 bytes, right? Because it's just one element. So when I divide this size of this whole array divided by size of a single element, this will give me how many elements are there inside the array. It will give me the size of the array, right? So this is alternate way to know the size of the array. Okay. So moving ahead. So this is a problem to find the maximum element in an array. So how do we do that? So suppose we have an array declared of and elements are numbered from 4, 5, 3, and so on. And I'd see here I've not mentioned how many elements are there, right? Because I don't know the number of elements I'm going to use here, right? So what I do is instead of counting the elements, I just write this int n variable. I just do the size of array divided by size of single element. So this n will store my size of the entire array. Okay, however many elements will that be? It will store the size. This variable n will store the size. Now what I do, I want to find the maximum element in this array. So how do we do that? So we can do this by suppose the answer we want to output, we initialize it to any negative number we want initially. Why? I'll tell you. So what do? We iterate through the array. Okay. Now, after each element, after each loop, if my answer variable is less than my array element, right? I update the value of this answer variable to this array element. Suppose what will happen? The answer is initially -1. So for the first time when the loop will run, this answer, it will check this condition. First element is 4. So is if -1 is less than 4, yes, then answer will be updated to value 4. And if in this entire array, if uh, if we encounter a variable greater than 4, if we encounter array element which is greater than 4, then this answer answer variable will be updated and it will store that value of the another element. So after this loop runs, we'll have the maximum element of the array. And after that, we can just output the answers which will store the maximum element in an array. Okay. So any doubts so far? You can ask in the chat. Okay, great. So I hope you all have understood this, how to find the maximum element in an array. So I suppose I have another problem. So I want to reverse the array and print it. So what is the minimum number of iterations required to reverse an array? So like you can scan this QR code and you can put your answer on the poll on the Slido website. The Slido website has the options given in the multiple choice before, and so I think you can choose your option there. Right, I can see the votes coming. Okay. So the answer to this problem is n by 2 if it's even and n minus 1 by 2 if n is odd, right? So I'll explain how it came n by 2 and n minus 1 by 2. So what is the algorithm? The fastest way to do this is we iterate through the array till the middle element, right? And we swap uh, the first and the last element. After that, we swap second and the second last element, and so on. So doing this, we only need n by 2 operations because we are only going through the middle of the array, right? So what will be the code for this problem? We'll just take a look at it. So here inside this for loop, I I have my variable I starting from 0 and going going through n by 2. So we are swapping the ith element n and the n minus 1 element, which will be the corresponding element from the last. So suppose if I have the 0th index element, we want it to be swapped with the n minus 1th indexed element. If I have the first element index, then I want it to be swapped with n minus 2th indexed element, right? Because you know how the array index works, right? And one more question you can ask is why I have taken it to be n by 2. But in the poll I've explained, given the answer as n by 2 for even and n by 2 for n minus 1 by 2 if it's odd. So in code, we writing n by 2 will be sufficient. Why? Because if n is odd, right? Suppose if n is odd, then doing n by 2 will give only the integer part as the answer, because that's how the C++ program works. If n and 2 are both integers, it will output only the integer part as the answer. So if I have 3 elements, size of an array is 3, then 3 by 2 will be considered only as 1, not as 1.5 in code. And if n is even, then n by 2 will be just sufficient, right? So I hope it's clear how the uh, reversing of an array works. So we just swap the first and the last element, second and the second last element, third and third last element, and so on till we reach the middle of the array, right? Okay. So one more problem is how do we rotate an array to the right? So suppose if I have an array for 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, I want it to be rotated. I want it to be uh, rotated as to the one by shifting by one position to the right. So 11, 1, 3, 5, 7, and so on. So how do I do that? Okay, I don't want to create another array and just output the input, take input from this array and transfer it to the another array. I don't want to do that. I want to make the changes in this array itself. And I want to rotate it by one position to the right. So how do I do that? So what we can do is inside the for loop, we start from the last index, right? And uh, starting from the last index, we come back till the 0th index, till the first index, right? And what do we do is we write this array ith element to be given the value of the previous element. So suppose the last element, its value was 11. So I transfer the previous element's value 9 to the last element, right? So this last element becomes 9. Now, on the second time, when the loop runs the second time, the element with the value 9 will take the value of its previous element, that is 7. So the second last element will take the value 7. So doing this will reach the first element, but now we want the first element to become for the value to be taken as the last element, right? We want the first the 0th index element. We want that element to be taken the value of the last element. So how do we do that? So for doing that, we need to save the value of the last element beforehand, because doing this, the last element's value will get updated. The last element's value will become 9. So we need to save the value of the last element beforehand so that we can use it for updating the value of the first element, right? So you can see how this code works, and then we can output the elements of an array, right? So I hope it's clear. This portion is clear. Okay. And I'll just share the slides with you afterwards. So I'll two-dimensional arrays. I'm skipping this topic, right? Okay. So next topic is vectors. Okay. So what are vectors? Vectors are like similar to arrays, but we can change its size. Okay, we can change their size. The size is dynamic. Okay, so vectors are used to store elements of similar data types, similar to arrays, but we can change the size of the vector during the execution of the program. Okay, so this is the major difference between vectors and arrays. Okay, the ability to resize itself when an element is inserted or deleted, with the storage being handled automatically. Yeah, so this is the major difference. We can all insert an element or we can delete the element from the vector, and size will be handled automatically. But we can't do this type of things in array. Okay, so why vectors? Vectors are commonly used to take inputs, store and process collections of data, such as a list of numbers, strings, objects, or any other type of element. Basically, same data types as arrays. Okay. So they provide dynamic resizing capabilities, making them suitable for scenarios where the size of the collection may change during runtime. Yeah. So I already told in the previous slide. Okay, so how do we declare and initialize this vector? So the syntax for this is vector, and whatever data type you want, you can insert it here. So this is the data type, and v is the name of the vector. Okay. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to initialize the array. So first way is vector, then in this brackets int n, v is the name of the array, and n. And in another bracket we include n. Doing this will create a vector of size n, and it will set all the elements to 0. It will set the values of all the elements to 0, and it will create a vector of size n. Second way to initialize is we can specify the size and value. Okay. So the all the elements of the vectors will have a value, will have the value set to this variable. So if I mention 5 here, all the values of all the elements of the vectors will be set to 5. If I by chance if I don't mention any value by doing this in the first case, all the elements will be by default set to 0. Okay. And or I can another way of initializing is I create a vector, then I use assign function. Assign is like inbuilt function in vectors. I can assign those any value I want to all the elements at once. Okay. But if I want to assign different values, say 10, 20, 30, I have to use this syntax. So I have to use this type of brackets, and whatever values I want, I can write it here, and this will automatically create a vector of size 3. Okay. Remember, this first and second syntax will create all the elements with the same value, and this third type of initialization you can set it to different values. Okay. And vectors can be of any data types, like they can be a float, they can be of character type, or bool. Bool means bool type is either true or false. They can only have two values, either true or false. And you can mention the size of the vectors in these brackets. Okay, so that size of the vector can be created. Okay, so indexes work in the same way as arrays. So indexes start from 0 and then till 1 to the total number of elements minus 1. The index of a number is always 1 less than the position. So the first element will have the index 0, similar to arrays. Okay. So now we'll discuss some common functions which are quite extensively used in CP. So the first function is pushback. So this pushback function inserts element A to the end of the vector, right? And second function is popback. Popback removes the last element of the vector. Any vector, it removes the last element. Then v dot size, it returns the size of the vector, how many elements are there in the vector. And v of I is similar to array. We can use this to access the value, the returns element at the ith index in the vector v, right? So in this code, suppose I declare a vector, then I push back 1, I push back 4, I push back 8, and then I pop back, and I use the pop back function. How will this work? So it will first create a element. So it will first insert an element 1, then it will insert 4, then it will insert 8, and I use the pop back function. So it will remove the last element. So only 1 and 4 will be left in the vector. So take a look at this code. This is just an example. So suppose I declare a vector v and I output this is the initial size is the string output. So it will initial size will be outputted just as it is, and then I'm using v dot size. So remember, when you declare any vector, by default its size is 0. If you don't mention the size inside the brackets, by default its size is taken to be 0. So that's what we are seeing here. Its size is 0 initially. Now we are pushing back the elements 3 and 4, and the size after pushback, we can again see the size changes to 2, right? Because we have added elements 3 and 4. And after that, we can just output the elements of the vectors using the for loop. This is the same syntax as the arrays, right? So after doing this, executing this for loop, you can see 3 and 4 are printed here. Now we use popback function. So it removes the last element, which is 4. So again, the size will be changed to 1. And again, if I output the elements, we'll only be able to see 3 as the element because 4 is, we have removed the last element, right? On some more functions, v dot clear, it erases the vector v completely, and v dot resize n. What this does is, if the value of n is less than the current size of the vector, then the extra elements are removed. And if n is more than the current size of the vector, then upcoming elements are appended at the end of the vector. So suppose we have vector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I resize it to 4, so the extra elements, like we have 5 elements, so extra element will be removed. So if I print the elements will be outputted as 1, 2, 3, 4 because we resize it to size 4. If I resize it to size 6, then what will happen? The size will become 6, but the extra elements, if the size is less than 6, because our initial size was 4. So if I resize it to 6, the extra elements will be added. Their value will be taken as 0 by default. Okay. And if I use this function resize 8 and the value I've given is 9. So the extra elements will be appended to the back. They'll take the value 9. Okay. If I don't use any value, if I use the resize function, by default the values will be zeros. But if if I mention the value specifically, they'll be taken whatever value I mentioned them. Okay. So you can see this is how the code works. Okay. Some more functions are there. The sort function, what this does is, this sorts the vector in non-decreasing order. What is this v dot begin? V dot begin is the iterator pointing to the first element, and v dot end is the iterator pointing to the, this iterator is basically after the last element. Okay. Basically, this is after the last element. So v dot begin points to the first element, and v dot end points to the iterator after the last element. We'll see this thing in some time. V dot front, this returns first element of the vector v, and v dot back, it returns the last element of the vector v. Okay. So this code is, just take a look at this code. We have vector which we have initialized 5, 3, 2, 6, 8. We are first printing the values of the elements. Then first element, I'm using v dot front function, that is, it will return the first element. V dot back will return the last element. And after I sort it from v dot begin to v dot end, means I'm taking the range to be the entire vector. So after I sort it, it will be sorted in non-decreasing order, right? So the vector after sorting will look like this: 2, 3, 5, 6, and 8. Okay. So last two functions are this lower bound and upper bound. These are like very, very useful in CP questions. So let's take a look at it. And note, before using this two functions, lower bound and upper bound, the vector must be sorted in non-decreasing order. Otherwise, you won't be able to extract the actual use for these elements. So before you use this, make sure that there is sorted in non-decreasing order. Otherwise, you won't be able to use it the way you want to. Okay. So what is this lower bound function? Lower bound function takes a couple of parameters. The first parameter is v dot begin, basically where you want to start. V dot end is where do you want it to end. Basically, the first two parameters specify the range of the function, like what range do you want the function to work with. And this is value. This value is, we have to specify what value we want the lower bound function to work with. And minus v dot begin, I'll come to this in a bit. So what this function does? This returns the first index of the first element, okay, which has a value not less than the value specified here. So suppose if I mention the value 7 in here, so I'll get the index of the first element which has a value not less than 7. So that means I'll get a index of the element which has a value greater than or equal to 7. Okay. And if this 7 is not present in the vector, then it will return the n iterator, right? Similarly, the upper bound function works in this minor difference, which is it will return the index of the element which has a value greater than the specified value. So it will return a index of the element which has a value strictly greater than the specified value. And if the value is not present in the vector, then returns the end iterator. Okay. And why we are doing this minus v dot begin? Because this is the reference. Because this upper bound, a function returns the iterator after like returns the this iterator can have any value, right? It can have a long hexadecimal value. But if we do this minus v dot begin, it will return how many iterations it's ahead of this first element. So basically, it will return the uh, difference between the first element and the specified value. Okay, so let's take a look at this by this code. So suppose we have vector 5, 6, and 7, and we are using this lower bound upper bound function. So before using that, we have this syntax. So we are using this iterator. So this is the syntax for using the iterator, and we are using two iterators, lower and upper. These are the names of the iterator. So lower iterator assumes this lower bound value, which is v dot begin, v dot end, and we are specifying the value to be 6. So what will this do? This will return the element, the index of the first element, which has a value not less than 6. That means it will return the value index of the element which has a value greater than or equal to 6. Okay. So if we output this as lower minus v dot begin, so it will show as index 3 because the a value greater than or equal to 6 is present at the index 6. And if we use the upper bound iterator and we are specifying the value to be 6, so it will return the index of the element which has a value greater than 6. First element which has a value greater than 6. So the first element which has the value greater than 6 is this element 7 right here. Okay, so what is the index of this element which has a value 7? The index of the element is 6, right? This first, this 7, which is the first element, which is greater than 6, has the index 6. So if we output upper minus v dot begin, it will give us the value as sixth index, the index as 6, right? Okay. So I have a question for you here. Let's take a look at this code and just output the what do you think will be the output of this code, and you can scan this keyword and vote on Slido, right? And you can ask any doubts you have till now in the chat. Just remember, what is this auto variable? Auto means like you don't need to specify the type of the variable we have used here. uh, it will automatically take the data type you have used it for. So here it will automatically take the iterator data type. Okay, so you don't need to write that syntax I showed you before. You can just write auto. So it will automatically take the data type which you want it to be used for. And just note here the range here is not the whole vector. In this it operator, the range is still from starting from v dot begin to v dot begin plus 5. So just keep in mind. Just try to think about this for a bit and just vote in the poll given after scanning the QR code. Okay, so you guys have voted. So let me proceed with the solution. So the correct answer is 13 for this question. So let's take a look at the it iterator first. So the end iterator for this is v dot begin plus 5. So it's not the whole range. It's not going till v dot end. It's just going till v dot begin plus 5. So a range will be starting from the first element to the index 5, right? Because v dot begin plus 5 will give the last element, right? Okay. So now the lower bound we have asked lower bound for 7. So lower bound for 7 is the value which is greater than first element in the range, which has a value greater than or equal to 7, or which has a value not less than 7. Okay. So here we can't see any value in the range which has a value greater than or equal to 7. So in that case, I showed you in the slide before, if the value is not present in the vector, then returns the end iterator. So here the end iterator is the last iterator is for index 5, right? So the fifth is the last position for this range. So it will return the index 5. Similarly, for the IT2 iterator, the end iterator is v dot end. So it will cover the whole range, right? And so all the elements will be listed here. Now upper bound for 7. Upper bound for 7 is the first element in the range which has a value greater than 7. But we can't see any value in the range which has greater than 7. So in this case also it will output the last position, which is v dot end, which has the index 8. So the IT2 assumes the value of the end iterator, which is index 8. So in both the cases, the value is not present in the range. So that's why it assumed the position of the last iterator, which in this case 5 and in this case 8. So our answer is 5 plus 8. Remember, the v dot n iterator is outside the actual vector. It's not present inside the actual vector, right? So just keep this thing in mind. So our next topic for the last topic for the day is strings and ASCII values. Okay. So we'll be covering ASCII values, strings, input methods, useful string functions. Okay. So what is ASCII? ASCII stands for American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Okay, so basically each character you see here, like A, B, C, D, E, or semicolon, or any symbol, uh, any symbol that you use on your keyboard has a certain ASCII value. Okay, this is created by American Standard Code. This is created by some company beforehand. Okay, so you don't need to memorize all these values. Just keep in mind this all the symbols in your on your keyboard have certain ASCII values. Okay. The character type in C++ is typically used to store ASCII characters. Okay, the ASCII value of the character can be obtained using the integral value of the corresponding character variable. Okay. So just take a look at this values here. Like the value you need to remember is these values. So a character capital A has ASCII value 65, and the character capital Z has ASCII value 70. And small a has values 97, and all the characters between small a to small z have a value between 97 to 122. Okay, so remember, small a and capital have different ASCII values, and the number 0 that you use on your keyboard, 0 character and 9 character, the ASCII values are 48 and 57. They're not like 0, 1, 2, 3 and till 9. Their values are 48 and 57. And suppose we want to convert an uppercase to lowercase, we can add 32 to it. So suppose if I add 32 to any uppercase element, it will become uppercase character, it will become a lowercase character, because the difference in those values is 32. And if I want to convert a lowercase character to uppercase, and then we can subtract 32. So suppose if I want to convert small b to capital B, so I can subtract 32 from the character B, and I'll get the capital B character there, right? And ask a value of the number 0 is 48. So we can add 48 whenever you want to use that number. Okay, or subtract 48 when we want to use that character as a number. Okay, so just keep these things in mind. Just remember, you need to remember only these values. Okay, so what are strings? Strings basically is a collection of characters surrounded by double quotes. Okay, and to use strings, you must include an additional header file, which is string in the source code. Okay, so string. So how do we declare and initialize the string values? We can use similarly as we used before. We can use the string data type or the string name, and s is the name of the string. So if I do this s equals abc, this will set the string abc to s. Another way for initialization is hello. If I want to initialize at the same time when I'm declaring it, so I can just use this string str equals hello. So it will declare and initialize at the same time, right? You don't need to do this separately. Okay. And how do I get the input for the string? Same way I can use the scene function. But the problem with the scene function is whenever it encounters a white space or a tab, it doesn't read any string after any characters after that. So if I want to uh, input an entire line which has white spaces or tabs or etc., I need to use this getLine function to need it to read the whole line of text. So suppose my input is this looks amazing, and if I use this string s, and if I input this using scene s, then s will only take the value this, because it encounters a white space here. So keep this in mind. So if I want to input the whole line, I need to use the getLine function. So getLine function takes into account white space and tabs also. So the string str variable will stores this looks amazing, because I've already used scene s, and after I use the getLine function, so it will take input after everything after this part, this string, right? Okay, so some basic string functions, similar to vector, string also has some inbuilt functions. So first is size function. Similarly, similar to vector, if I have a string, and if I output length or size, both are the same functions. So I can get how many characters are there in the function, right? Okay. And another function is s dot clear. It will clear the string s, similar to vectors. It will erase all the characters here. Okay. Some more functions are there. Let's go through them quickly. S1 dot append S2. What this does is it appends all the characters of the string S2 at the end of string S1. So suppose if I have a string A hide, string B hello, and string C helical. So if I do this A dot append B, this will add all the characters hello after hide. So string A will actually be modified to hide and then hello. Okay, so string A will get modified to hide and plus the string B which you have appended at the last. And if I use this syntax, b dot append, we are appending string C, but we are using this 1 and 4. Basically, this is the indexes what we want to append. Indexes of string C, what we want to append to the string B. So this will append the string C starting from index 1 till index 4. You will add them at the last of the string B. So the string B will become hello, and all the characters of string C starting from index 1 to index 4, right? So hello elic, string B will become hello elic, right? So another operator, this is plus operator. This will just we can add one string to another using this operator. So suppose if I have two strings, if I declare another string C, and if I initialize it as A and B, A plus B. So if I print this string, it will actually print the combined string uh, A plus B, right? So some more functions are there. Reverse, as the name suggests, it will reverse the elements of the string. So if I have program, it will string program will it will be reversed as uh, margorp, right? And if this substring function, what will it do? It will take part of the substring starting at the ith index. So suppose if I have a string program, and if I have another string, declare another string, and use this substring function starting from index 1 till 3. So it will actually only consider the character starting from index 1 to index 3 in the S string. Okay. So string str will be outputted as ROG. Str will have the value ROG if we use this substring function. Okay. And some another function is s1.find s2. So what this does is it finds the instance of the string 2 in string 1. So if I have a string s1 called banana and s2 called an, okay, so if I use s1 dot find s2, it will search uh, for the string an in the string banana, and it will find the first instance of the uh, string s1, string s2 in string s1. So an occurs for the first time at the index 1. A occurs for the first time at the index 1 in banana. After 0 and 1, it occurs for the first time at the index 1. So it will output as 1. And r s1 dot r find, it will find the last instance of the string s2 in s1. Okay, so if I use s1 dot r find s2, so you can see an occurs in 2 times for in the string s1. So it will actually take the second uh, value of the position where it is occurring the second time. So it will output as 3. And if we use s1 dot find s3, s3 is string us, so we can't find us in the string s1, so it will just output any random garbage value. So if we use this function on string s3, because it's not present in the string s1. And how can we compare the two strings? It is done lexicographically. It means that we compare one element at a time from left to right. It compares the corresponding characters in both strings until it reaches the first character, which is different in two strings. Okay. So, and we can use this comparison using these operators, such as greater than, less than, or equal to. Okay. And if this greater than operator means if s1 is greater than s2, if the ASCII value of the character at the first point of difference in s1 is greater than s2. So suppose I have a string s1 apple and string 2 app store. So if I use this s2 greater than s1, okay, so you can see that difference in s2 and s1 is this s and position at index 3. So s and l are different. This is the point of difference where s and l are differing, right? And you can see that s has a higher ASCII value than l because it comes after l, right? So s2 greater than s1 is actually a true statement because s2 is actually greater than s1. Okay, so it will output as 1. Okay, so if the statement is false, then it will output 0 because we are just using this comparison operator. It will actually check if this is true or not. If this is true, then it will output 1. If it's false, it will output 0. Okay, then string s3 is again apple, and if we are using this operator equals operator, then it will check if the strings are equal or not, and we can see that they are equal. So it will output 1. And s3 and s4. So if we are using this S3 and S4, we can see that point of difference is this L. We have this L in S3 and we don't have any character after P in string S4. So S3 is obviously greater than S4 lexicographically. So it will output, it's a true statement. So it will output 1, right? So moving ahead. So that's it today, guys. So if you forgot to mark your attendance, you can scan this QR code to again mark your attendance. If you had some network issues or network issues before, you can scan this QR code again. No, you do not need to mark again if you have done it earlier. Just in case if you missed the opportunity before, you can scan it and mark your attendance again. And after this, just scan this QR code to fill the feedback form. It will be really helpful for us on where to make changes. So just don't forget to fill out this feedback form. And that's it for today, guys. This is the end of the session. When you can leave after filling the feedback form, please fill the feedback form. Just scan the QR code and Google form will appear. So you can fill the Google feedback from that. The slides will be made available to you afterwards, so don't worry. And assignments, some problems will be given for you to solve. So no need to worry for that.